Hey there, welcome back to the learning experience with Reza Ali. This is my second episode. I did one last week. That one lasted 2.5 hours. I don't even know how I managed to talk for that much. And more importantly, I don't even know how some of you are able to listen for that long. But it was a great experience for me, and I said to myself that this is something that I've always wanted to do, and it gives me an opportunity to share my experience. That's why it's called the learning experience. And so thank you for dropping by. Thank you for coming back. If you are new, my name is Reza Ali. I am a okay, what am I? I am a CEO, a trainer. Hang on, let me just. All right. I am a CEO, a trainer, dreamer, idealist, vlogger, cameraman, Muslim, and husband. So I have this is my YouTube channel. Please do subscribe if you haven't already done so. That would be much appreciated. So this channel is all about me wanting to share um, what I've learned through the journey of my life. I've always said that I wanted a channel and an avenue to be able to leave something behind, my legacy, so to speak. And one of the things that I think has made me different from other people is my ability to learn and my willingness to learn new things and my willingness to uh, to to experiment and do things, even if I know that I'm going to be making a lot of mistakes and that I'm going to fail. So, in today's learning experience, I am going to talk about something that is very close and dear to my heart. And I've called this show Why I Won't Retire. All right. So I have some people, some of my friends who I've told, you got to watch this show, this episode, because some of them are nearing retirement, and I think some of them are very, what's the word? Are very intrigued by the title, "Why I Won't Retire." So I've been in business for the last 15 years or so. I have my own company called Right Eye Sendirian Berhad. Where is it? Okay, so here you go. So this is my company. I'm a Malaysia corporate training and leadership development team focused on results through experiential learning. So we do a lot of corporate training. I do exclusively corporate training. I don't do public programs. And we deal with I like to call them essential skills. I don't like the term soft skills. Soft skills has this connotation of not being important to certain people, and I think a more apt name is essential skills. Skills that are important and essential for everybody, no matter what they do and no matter what level in the organization they are. So back to my title, Why I Won't Retire, 5 learnings that change everything for me. So I've had a long time to think about this in wanting to put together um, a framework or a coherent structure that I can begin to present and share with people, with the hope of supporting them in their career or in their business. So it's I've wanted to cut out all the fluff, and I wanted to cut out all the non-essential stuff and just leave with the absolute bare minimum that I can share with people. I want to make sure I don't turn this into a 2.5 hour thing. My target is 1 hour. So it is 5 o'clock, and let's hope we get to do it. I have a little agenda here. We started at 5 o'clock on the door. We started 30 seconds late. There, I went into a little bit about who am I, and then we're going to start a little bit about what I call in misery. This is really what happened to me, and then begin the journey of the 5 lessons which I can attribute to 5 major events in my life. First one is called BSE, living above the line. Second one, how one paragraph changed everything. Third, how to be a hedgehog. If you don't know what a hedgehog is, stick around. I'll show you what a hedgehog looks like. Number 4, the Petronas years comes back to me. I was working in Petronas from 95 to 2000 to the year 2000, 2001. And there's an important lesson there. And the 5th one, I call it 103 by time. A bit mysterious. You have to wait around for at the end of this show to find out what exactly do I mean by 103 by time. If you want to take a stab and guess what exactly I mean by 103 by time, go ahead. Please write your guess in the chat, in the live chat session of this video, and then hopefully we can end by 6. But I'm thinking maybe we'll end by 6:15. So that's the target. Before we go into it, I'll give you some background. So make everything a learning experience is my company motto. I don't have it here. This is a hashtag. So if you want to hashtag anything about this, whether it's in Instagram or in Twitter, this is the hashtag that you learn. I am going to put this into the live chat so that you don't. Oops, just copy that. Right. Okay. So who am I? I've gone through this before. I am a CEO, trainer, dreamer, idealist, vlogger, cameraman, Muslim, and husband. So these are all the roles that I consider important in my life. I've had 27 years experience since 1993, and this year I've been working. Some of the things that I've done here, I was a child actor. I'm not going to tell you what movie it was. It was a very interesting period of my life. I was 11 years old. I was a shoe store help in London, working part-time during my degree, during me studying for my law degree. I was a legal officer at Petronas, a project manager at a company called iPrintris, a program manager at a company called commerce.com. I was also head of operations at commerce.com. I then became a consultant, or rather an associate consultant with a consulting firm called A.T. Kearney. I was also a professional photographer, moonlighting as a professional photographer for a few months, trainer and CEO. So this is my whole company centers around this. Make everything a learning experience. So this is something that is embedded within everything we do in our organization. All right. So let's start about this session called In Misery. So one of the things that I would say, I would begin my story by saying that there was, when I came back from the UK and started working, it was a very significant part of my life because I just started my career. And I would say that I had an extremely I'm very grateful to have been able to get an extremely good start to my career. I had good bosses who nurtured me and taught me what I needed to do. I was given very interesting and exciting excitements projects at work, and things seemed to be quite brilliant for me. But the thing is, I was hiding behind, I would call, a mask, because deep inside I was actually quite miserable. I didn't enjoy myself, and things started getting from bad to worse. I had financial issues. I suddenly found myself in an incredible with an incredible amount of debt. I'm not going to go into the reasons why I went into the debt. That's for another show. Um, my parents were not in good shape from a health point of view. Um, I wasn't in a good shape from a social and relationship point of view. I was a bit of a basket case at relationships. And one of the things I learned is I was looking good but going nowhere. And then came the period beginning 2002, 2001, 2002. My father had passed away from kidney failure. I was getting in more debt. My career seemed to be growing at a fast pace, but the amount of money I earned was not enough to cover the debt that I had owed. On top of that, I found myself getting um, not so great people to work for. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So I came to the point where I was miserable at work. I hated the job that I was doing. I hated the people that I was working for. I was by that time also quite a very because of all the um, drama that was going on in my life, I became somebody who was not very pleasant to work with and to work for. So that's kind of like the background of where I want to paint the story. Um, so it was a very deep and dark moment of my life. So what happened was in 2004, um, I was asked by my company to attend a program, a training program. And that program was called the Business School for Entrepreneurs, or BSE. Now, I have to say that under these circumstances, I really didn't want to attend the program at all. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. And I was in such a dark moment of my life that I thought that nothing could help me. That I am condemned to a life of misery. That things will never get better, and I can't do anything about my life. And I went to this program under protest, and I always like to tell this story to people. My face was so long that I was mopping the floor. It was an 8-day program, residential, at Holiday Villa Subang. And from the moment I checked in, and from the moment the training started, I was in even bigger misery. So let me share with you a little bit about what the BSE is. So this is from their website. BSE The most lucrative entrepreneurial window you will see. So this is the website, Global Accelerated Business School.com. So what do they say here? The Global Accelerated BSE is an intensive, fully residential 8-day program where you learn the winning formulas and money-making secrets of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. And I would read that or something similar to that and say, "Oh my God, I don't want to attend these kind of programs because what is it that they can teach me that I don't already know?" Because I don't want to. There isn't any winning formulas, and there isn't any money making secrets, and I'm not an entrepreneur, and all these things is something that is just going to be a little bit of fluff, and it's not going to get me anywhere. But the people at my company were very adamant that I go. So during the BSE, the concept for the BSE is that it's an 8-day program, and there's one facilitator uh, called the lead instructor. So the lead instructor will be supported by many supporting instructor who will come in as subject matter experts to share certain things with the participants like me. So at the BSE, we had this gentleman called Dominique Leon. She's an Australian, originally from Egypt. And he is the CEO of a very successful company called COS Cost, and he has been able to turn his small, I would say, equivalent of the garage startup from 1976 into what is now $100 million company and still going strong. So I can remember sitting down as a participant, and I have a picture actually. I can remember this one, sitting down as a participant, and he would be introduced. So he would come up and he will be starting, and he started to talk. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, no, this is going to be 8 days of hell. So he was doing this piece called Earning the Right. And earning the right is basically um, a piece at the beginning of any training program where the person who's facilitating or instructing or training or teaching has to spend a few minutes sharing their life story with the participants with the intention of basically saying, this is how my life was, this is how screwed up my life was, and I had to do a few things in order to change it. I am like you, I was like you before. So he's sharing about his journey from uh, going from Egypt to Australia, not being able to speak a word of English, being very embarrassed about it, and sharing his relationship with his father, with his mother, and with his siblings, and talking about it. And as I sat there listening to him, even though even though I still resented at being forced to go to this thing, I thought to myself, I actually remembered thinking, well, at least this is an interesting guy to listen to. Maybe there's something here. Maybe, at least he's a good storyteller. So in that part of earning the right, one of the most important thing is this. He calls it living above the line. And living above the line is what this section of this show is about, living above the line. We can either live below the line or we live above the line. What line are we talking about? I'll share with you in a minute. So this is a group photo of that BSE, a bunch of crazy guys. This is another photo. This is actually me. That's me there. That's Dominic. And this is DC, or right now she prefers to be called Doria Cordova, who is a great friend of mine, who is the CEO of Accelerated.com, who runs the business school. Right. So I'll put links to all these things in the description below, and these are some of my team members. And so in that BSE, we had about 64 participants from all over the world. We had people from obviously Malaysia, Singapore. We had people from Australia, from Europe, from the States coming in come to Subang, Holiday Villa Subang for 8 days. So I don't want to go into what happened in the BSE because I don't want to rob anybody of what I call the learning experience, because it is extremely experiential. And it's full of games, full of activities, full of exercises, and full of simulations. So I don't want to go into what we did at the BSE, but I will go into what I personally learned at the BSE. And one of the things that when Dominic was talking about living above the line, what line is it? It is this line. So there's responsibility, and everything below that is below the line. So you either live above the line or you can live below the line. So living below the line is basically making excuses, laying blame, and justifying things that happens in your life. You're unhappy about something, you feel miserable about something, you don't like something that's happening. It's always somebody else's fault. You do something that is wrong, but you always justify why it was okay for you to do it. And if you were not able to achieve something, or if you had attempted something and made mistakes, there's always the comfort of making excuses. And living below the line is basically the idea that you live your life making excuses, blaming other people, and justifying your actions. And as he was talking about this throughout the 8 days, I don't know what happened. I don't know why and how it happened, but I think it was on the fourth day. It was on a Wednesday afternoon that it just dawned on me completely. And it was like it, it was the to me, you know what an epiphany is, or that aha moment when the light bulb suddenly comes up in your mind. I had that epiphany that my whole life and everything that was in it, and all the misery that I that I experienced in it, and all the things that were not going right, and all the things that were bad, I had attributed to everybody else in the world, to my parents, to my bosses, to my colleagues, to the people I had relationships with. It was all about them. It was never about me. I was simply a victim. I was simply the innocent bystander that life just happened into. And what I realized that then at that point in time was that by doing that, by making excuses, by laying blame, by justifying to everything that happened in my life, I was living below the line of responsibility. And if I continue to live below the line of responsibility, I will never be happy. I will never be able to change my life. It's, it's only when living above the line, to stop the excuses, to stop blaming, and to stop justifying, means that I have taken responsibility. The word that I like to use instead of responsibility these days in my program is take charge. If continue making excuses, I'm not taking charge of my life. If I continue to lay blame on other people, I'm not taking charge of my life. If I continue to justify my actions, I'm not taking charge of my life. And if I'm not in charge of my life, then what's my life about? What is it for? And if I wanted to take charge of my life, I've got to stop all this. I remember this moment very clearly in my mind on that Wednesday afternoon, day 4 of the program, because I broke down crying. It was such an emotional release for me because it was something that was pent up for so long. So at that moment, in that particular instant, I decided enough, enough, enough. I need to take responsibility of my life. I need to take charge of my life. I need my life back. And ever since then, everything that I've done was about taking charge of things in my life and everything that happens around me. I don't always succeed in doing that. Doesn't mean that suddenly I've stopped making excuses. It still comes up. It doesn't mean that I stop blame people. It just still comes up and it happens to me. It doesn't mean that I start justifying. I still do. But what's different now is I am very conscious when I do it. And I suddenly say, I can remind myself, oh, I just did something below the line then. I need to take responsibility back. So, the first learning why I won't retire, the first learning for you is to live above the line. Take charge of your life. Stop making excuses, stop blaming, and stop justifying. Just by that, things are going to change. So, that's the first part. All right. Whew. Okay. I need a drink. So, number one, live above the line. Number two, how one paragraph changed everything. This is a paragraph from a book. Promise you, this really, really happened because taking charge and being responsible was just the start, right? It's not enough. It's a start, it's a necessary start. Things don't actually move until you start taking charge or be responsible. But this next piece was very profound for me. How one paragraph changed everything. And the paragraph that I'm referring to is from a book called The End of Poverty: How We Can Make It Happen in Our Lifetime by Professor Jeffrey Sachs, with a forward by Bono of U2. So, what is this book about? Now, this book, Professor Sachs developed, let me read to you. Jeffrey Sachs, special advisor to the UN Secretary General, the late Kofi Annan, and probably the most important economist in the world, has the answers. He's traveled and worked in over 100 countries around the globe, Africa to India, Poland to Bolivia, advising leaders on economic development and poverty reduction. Here he lays out how poverty has been beaten in the past, how in realistic, attainable steps we can make a real difference for the 1/5 of humanity who still live in extreme poverty, how they can find partnership with their wealthy counterparts to escape the poverty trap, and how little it will actually cost, and how everyone can help. So he helped develop the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, which had the um, the goal of ending poverty in our lifetime. So this book was written in 2005, right? So after the BSE, I went on a serious drive for knowledge. I read books and I came across this book because it was the rage at that moment when it was first published. Sorry, that's a motorcycle. So I read this book, and this book talked about how if the world came together, we can end uh, poverty in our lifetime. So the one paragraph that changed everything was this one. All right, page 57. Okay, can you see? It's this part. Page 57, The End of Poverty by Jeffrey Sachs. I know you can't read that. I will read it to you. In fact, the standard measures of domestic savings based on the official national accounts overstate the saving of the poor because these data do not account for the fact that the poor are depleting their natural capital by cutting down trees, exhausting soils of their nutrients, mining their mineral energy and metal deposits, and overfishing. These forms of natural capital are not monitored in the official national accounts data, and as a result, their depreciation or depletion is not recognized as a form of negative saving. When a tree is cut down and sold for fuel wood and not replanted, the earnings to the logger are counted as income, but instead should be counted as a conversion of capital of one capital. Okay, let me just restart that. But instead should be counted as a conversion of one capital asset, the tree, into a financial asset, money. Isn't that awesome? But what the heck does that mean? Right? I remember I remember reading it, and I read it, especially the last part. When a tree is cut down and sold for fuel wood and not replanted, the earnings to the logger are counted as income, but instead should be counted as a conversion of one capital asset, the tree, into a financial asset, money. I remember sitting down, reading that. I reread it and I reread it and I read it 10 times. And I sat there for an hour because it hit me how significant that sentence was to my life. Let me explain to you what it means. Before that, I have some people. LJ, Clap, thank you very much for watching. Lang, hi Reza. Hi Lang, how are you? Thank you for dropping by. Hi Q, hi Q. Right? Please do leave a message in the live chat. One of the and leave any questions you have for me in the live chat section. So now I'm going to go into what Professor Sachs means on page 57, The End of Poverty. Part of the part of the research that Jeffrey Sachs did was to try to understand why are there so many countries who were rich in hydrocarbon mineral resources, oil and gas. Why are there so many countries who are so rich in hydrocarbon, mineral oil, and gas, and yet these countries still remain poor? What was going on, right? I mean, oil is known as black gold. How can a country with large reserves of oil and gas, how can these countries remain poor? Why are the people still poor? So, as opposed to countries like Malaysia, why is a country like Malaysia are able to thrive from the hydrocarbon and mineral resources? Obviously, because Petronas is in there, and I. But what is it about Malaysia that makes us different from a country like some of the countries in South America, some of the countries in the Middle East, some of the countries in Africa? What's different? So, what Jeffrey Sachs said was this: what is different is this. These countries would license their would give out concessions and licenses to all companies to go and drill for oil and gas. When oil is found or gas is found, more oil, because oil is easy. Oil, you just drill, take the oil out, put it in the barrel, and then sell it off. That's a very simplistic view, but that's essentially what it is. Gas is very different because you strike gas and you have to find a way to transport the gas from the gas field to onshore. And then once it's onshore, you got to figure out what to do with the gas. Are you going to turn it into LNG, liquefied natural gas, which means you need a gasification plant, and then you need to spend a whole lot of money, and then you need tankers to move the gas from one part to another. But if you're not going to go into LNG, then you're going to pipe it throughout your country, and so then you need to build pipelines, and pipelines will be thousands of kilometers across, and it's a whole big nightmare. But there were so many countries with large reserves of oil and gas, but they were still poor. And the reason is this: when those countries, when the oil companies given the license to drill for oil, when they find oil and they start to produce oil and sell it off, the proceeds that the host country, the country itself, keeps, they would take it and treat it as an income. And when you get income, what do? You have to spend. You will spend. But the smart countries, the smart people, what do? They say, hey, instead of treating this as an income, we have to treat it, and this is where this thing comes in, this sentence, we have to treat it as a conversion of one capital asset, oil, into a financial asset, money, which means it's never treated as an income. The proceeds from the sale of the oil and the gas is always treated as financial, as a form of capital. So when it's treated as a form of capital, basic rule, you never spend your capital. You only spend your earnings from your capital. And the one country that does this extremely well and is doing it extremely well is Norway, with their oil sovereign fund. I think that's what they call it, which right now is touching if I'm not mistaken, $100 trillion. Let me just check that. Uh, Norway. I want to get this right. Norway Oil Sovereign Wealth Fund. Right. So let me read this to you. From Norway, the government pension fund Global, also known as the oil fund, was established in 1990 to invest the surplus revenues of the Norwegian petroleum sector. It has over $1 trillion in assets, making it the world's largest. Sorry, it's not 100 trillion; it's 1 trillion. The world's largest sovereign wealth fund. Right? So that's one of the things that I have always said as part of Malaysia's um, oil revenue and royalty strategy is I hope and I wish that the government would create an equivalent oil sovereign wealth fund to take care of all the royalties given to both the government at both federal and state, and that fund needs to be managed, and only the earnings from that fund can be spent. At the moment, it's not managed in that way. It is commingled, I think, with the rest of the funds from the government, but that's a different show altogether. So that is that paragraph. So what the heck has this got to do with me not retiring? Okay. Let me just. Um, all right. The reason is this. I suddenly realized that perhaps the principles that I found in this book can actually be applied to me. That what if I had my own natural capital? What if there is something within me that I can treat as capital? And what I need to do is convert that capital from one form to another. So that completely changed how I thought about working, and that changed how I thought about a career and business, because it wasn't about getting an income from a job, from an employer, or getting a salary. It was all about converting my natural capital into a financial asset, money. And if I were able to do that, I would never have to rely on a salary anymore, or be worried about a salary anymore. Last week's show, I talked about the four things that makes you valuable, and this is why. Number one is knowledge. Number two is experience. Number three is skills. Number four is principles. So those are my capital asset. That's what's inherent with me. My knowledge, what I know, my skill, what I can do, or my expertise, the experience I've gone through in the past, experience like what that I can share with you, like I'm sharing you right now, and my principles. If I were able to find a way to identify these natural capitals in me, and then found a way to convert it from one form, which is inherently in me, into financial asset, money, then my life would be set. And that's the realization I had that afternoon when I read this book. It took me a year to think about the implications of that one sentence. I mean, I was carrying this book everywhere. And I was rereading that passage everywhere. I said, I'm sure this must apply to me. I'm sure it can apply to us. Right? So that's the second learning, right? That I have natural capital, you have natural capital in you. And what you need to do, And what I've done is convert that natural capital from an intangible asset, which is in you, into a financial asset, which is money. So that's the second thing. And now is an extremely good time to go for a break. What I'm going to do, I am going to show you a short trailer about my YouTube channel, so that you can take a break from listening to me and go to the have a toilet break, have a coffee break like I am, and see you in a couple of minutes. It will be a, a record of what I do. And YouTube, for me, as I think for a lot of people, is becoming an important witness to my life. And that's amazing. And I hope somebody is going to look back at all these videos, say, hey, you know, that looks like an interesting person. I wish I knew him. Okay, welcome back. I just realized that that whole video was flipped. I need to flip it vertically. So sorry about that. But if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be very much appreciated. I've got 94 subscribers. I'm aiming for 100. That's all for the time being. Okay, so let's go to the next part. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. This is part of an ancient Greek parable, and it's about the idea that a fox would want to hunt for the hedgehog, and the fox would try many ways to do it, but will be unsuccessful because the hedgehog knows one big thing, which is to hide. So the question is how to be a hedgehog. And that is a very good way to introduce to you this book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. So this book, I first read it in 2004. Actually, the first time I read it was at the business school for entrepreneurs that I read about earlier. This is one of the required readings that we were supposed to do. So this book I consider to be one of the best books for management that I constantly refers to that I constantly refer to, because there are a lot of principles in there that applies to any organizations, and these principles are also something that is applicable, that can be repurposed for individuals. So that's the book, Good to Great. So Good to Great was written by somebody called Jim Collins. Oh, I didn't show, you don't know. Okay, this is what I was talking about. Right, that's a hedgehog. Fox knows many things, but a hedgehog knows one big thing: how to be a hedgehog. And this is the book, Good to Great. And I want to show you. So this is Jim Collins, by the way. I'm going to show a piece of a video that he made in a short while. But the question is this. In chapter 5 of this book, he writes, "Are you a hedgehog or a fox?" And his premise is that it is better to be a hedgehog than it is to be a fox. Know at least one big thing, not know many things. So, what is the hedgehog concept? Let us listen to what Jim Collins has to say about that.
Now, when we took all our companies, we began to ask the question, was there any pattern to the one big thing that they all followed? Is there any sort of systematic framework that would explain it? And when we laid out all the information, what we found and saw in the mess of data was an underlying framework of three intersecting circles. And that what a really good hedgehog concept reflects is deep understanding of each of these three circles. Circle number one, what you are deeply passionate about. And nothing great can happen without beginning first with passion. And if you're not passionate, you can't possibly make it great. Circle number two is the lower left circle. And this is about understanding what you can be the best in the world at, and equally what you cannot be the best in the world at. Not what you hope to be the best at, not what you aim to be the best at, but what you actually can be the best at. And then the third circle, bottom right, is what drives your economic engine. And we found in our research for corporations that they all got a simple, penetrating, underlying insight, a single ratio. If you could increase one ratio above all other ratios, profit per X, what 1X would give you the highest rate of return over time? And it varies from company to company. So standing back then, a hedgehog concept is when you find the intersection of what you are passionate about, what you can be the best in the world at, and what best drives your economic engine, preferably consistent with a single ratio of profit per X. Now, when we took all our companies.
All right, so that is Jim Collins, and what he's talking about is this. How to be a hedgehog, how to be the one that always succeeds, is to understand the intersection between these three circles. What are you deeply passionate about? What you can be the best at, in what you can be the best in the world at? What drives your economic engine? So this is something that great companies. This is something that Jim Collins found that great companies were able to do and understand about their business. So in thinking about that, and when I first read that, I was thinking, can this sounds like something that I can apply to me. So what am I deeply passionate about? What can I be the best in the world at? What can drive my economic engine? And I spent a long time thinking about it, right? thinking about what is it that I can do, what do people think about me, what asking for feedback, what do you think I'm good at, and then figuring out what is it that really drives me. And when we are talking about things that we are deeply passionate about and things that you can be the best in the world at, if you can find that and you can find a way to make it your economic engine and essentially find that intersection between these three circles, what you will find yourself doing is you will be doing something you're deeply passionate about, that you care so much that you would do it for free. And at the same time, this is something that you are good at, or you can be the best at, or you can be in the top percentile of excellence at. And presumably, if you are passionate about it and you are good at it, your passion will drive your desire to improve and keep improving. And if you can find these two things and turn it into an economic engine, you will find yourself doing something that you enjoy doing, something that you're good at doing, and at the same time get paid to do it. And that is the hedgehog principle applied to Reza. And again, I thought about it. And at the same time, thinking about what I learned from Jeffrey Sachs and the converting of the capital asset, and thinking about the hedgehog concept at the same time, desperately wanting to take charge of my life. So that's lesson number 3. You must find your hedgehog concept. Understand what are you deeply passionate about. I mean, really, really passionate about. That you do something for free because you're so passionate about it. What can you be the best at? And the thing is, this requires a deep understanding of what you can do and what you're capable of doing, which not many people are have thought about. And then finally think about, how do I turn this into an economic engine? I meet so many people who are so great at doing so many things that is beyond what they do at work. And I ask them, why don't you do something? Why do you do this? And I say, oh, I can't make a living out of this. And I always tell them, you can't, you haven't, you you say you can't make a living out of it. I say you can't make a living out of it because you haven't figured out how to turn it into your economic engine. So that's lesson number 3. Let's go to lesson number 4. And for that, we have to go back to my Petronas years, 1995 to 2000. In fact, my relationship in Petronas began in 1991, when Petronas sponsored me to do my degree in the United Kingdom. So I don't mind sharing that I am so deeply passionate about Petronas. I think it's obviously to me the greatest company in Malaysia, and I say to me that even it is one of the great oil and gas companies in the world. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and I am planning to do a show specifically on my Petronas years. But the one thing that was very important to me was this. This is the Petronas mission statement at 1995, the year I joined Petronas. We are a business entity. Petroleum is our core business. Our primary responsibility is to develop and add value to this national resource. Our objective is to contribute to the well-being of the people and the nation. So that's the Petronas mission statement. And this I have emphasized on purpose, because this is what I want to talk about. Add value. Add value. Add value. So one of the things that Petronas was good at was to add value to this national resource of the hydrocarbon and mineral resources. So if you remember what Jeffrey Sachs said earlier, to convert this capital from one form to another, that's what Petronas is very good at. And one of the way of converting, one of the way to enrich the natural capital is to add value. And I take that, and I had said that this is something that can be applied to a human being as well. Because what if, instead of completing a task, instead of doing my job, I ask myself, how do I add value at work? How does my presence is something become more valuable? When a piece of assignment comes to me, 99 other people would just process the assignment in the same way. But how can I add value that nobody else can? And that has really been on the forefront of one of my principles of working. Always about adding value. Always about adding value. And if I'm able to find this hedgehog concept, and I'm able to find my natural capital, and me wanting to take charge of my life and being responsible, and I find a way to add value to this world, hey, maybe there's something there. And adding value has really been one of the things I think that would make me separate from many other trainers and training providers, is simply my near obsession with giving more value than what has been requested or asked from me. Always finding a way to add value. Always finding to add value. I've had to increase my prices a few times over the last 15 years because of um, and I've always said to me and my team, said, I don't want to increase the price if we can't show a demonstrable adding of value. Always add value. Always add value. Always add value. So one of the things that I want you to take out from this is to ask yourself, am I adding value at my work? Am I adding value to this world? Am I adding value to the team? Am I adding value to the relationship? Am I adding value to the business? Am I adding value to the company? And if you're not adding value, then highly likely that you're taking value away. Or at the very least, things are not better off with your presence in it. And perhaps at that moment in time, an argument can be made that that we have become simply a waste of resources. So that's number 4. Come to the last one. 103 by time. So I said earlier, what does 103 by time mean? It's basically this. This is 103 is a reference to the Holy Quran, the 103rd surah, if you prefer, 103rd chapter, chapter 103, called Surah Al-Asr, or the Surah of Time. And this is a translation of that surah. By time, indeed, mankind is in loss, except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds and advise each other to truth and advise each other to patience. I don't want to turn this into some form of tazkirah or lecture and all that, because I'm completely the least qualified person to do it. But I have to put this in because it forms part of the answer to this question, why I won't retire. So in order to do that, I'm going to show you a clip. This is a clip from a current ustad or teacher of the Quran, and he explains this idea. He explains very nicely what I'm trying to say. So let's go. Where is it? So this is Ustad Nu'man Ali Khan talking about a tafsir or a reading of Surah Al-Asr. I'm only going to show 3 minutes of it, and then come back and tell you why it became significant to me.
فَالْمُغِيرَاتِ صُبْحًا. It's a sense of urgency. When people get up early in the morning and get themselves ahead of traffic, there's a sense of urgency to earn and to acquire. On the other hand, is a sense of relaxation. I got all the time, I could put some other things aside. Alhaakum at-takathur. This is urgent. Everything else became secondary. You got too much time. It can wait. You're distracted, meaning this other stuff that's actually important doesn't take any time in your life. Just to put this in practical terms, you're working, you're working on a project or whatever, and your mother says, hey, it's Asr time or it's Maghrib time. Mom, okay, not right now, okay, just let me finish this. And the Salat times goes. And you don't want to take attention away from the code you're writing or the project you're working on, because if you pray, it's gonna break your flow and all of that. It can wait, Mom. It can just wait. So the prayer was a distraction from your work. But the Quran is actually saying everything else is a distraction. This is the thing that needed attention. This was the priority. Alhaakumut takathur. Now Allah essentially in this surah, after talking about how some things you take very seriously and you can't wait. You just want to get them right away. And some things you're distracted and you put aside. Allah says you can't just keep going this way because your time is running out. Wal asr. Wal asr. And then he makes a further argument. There's two things we want. We want better and we want more. The argument for better is in Surah Al-Adiyat. The argument for more is in Surah Al-Takathur, from Kathra. Those are the two things that drive humanity. We want better. You want a better life. You want a better house. You want a better car. You want better clothes. You want a better phone. You want a better. Everything has to be better. And even if you have it, you want something more. So it's quality and what? Quantity. Those two things are constantly obsessing. If you have everything, you want more money now. Because I might want something better later. Right? So, and if I want something better, I need more money. So it's either quantity or quality, or quantity or quality. If I had more money, I'd have a better quality car, a better quality house, better quality clothes, better quality travel, better quality vacation. That's what these two things are. They bounce off of each other. Now, those two things, we feel if we had those two things, we'd be successful. We'd actually be successful. And the more we're getting, the more successful we are. Someone who has a higher salary is considered more successful than someone who has a lesser salary. The one who has a higher education and more degrees is more successful than someone who has less degrees. There's someone who has a better quality life, better quality materials around them, better quality of social circle, is considered more successful than the one who doesn't. And Surah Al-Asr comes along and reverse engineers all of it and says, actually, all of this is just loss. No, all of this, your time's running out and you're running after things that are nothing but loss. Innal insana lafi khusr. It just, first Allah commented on how obsessed you are with more and better. And then he basically said, and more and better, the way you think of them, is nothing but failure. It has nothing to do with success. This surah redefines success and failure. And this is actually why this is the Quran's worldview encapsulated. Look.
All right. So that is Ustaz Nu'man Ali Khan. So let me just break it down for you. In the whole Surah Al-Asr, the 103rd surah in the Quran, is one of the shortest. And this is it. But it is, to me and to many people, one of the most significant. So there are many things to learn from it, but I'm just going to share the relevant two in this particular discussion, why I won't retire. Number one, what this surah has said and the implications that I thought about was the fact that when we say I'm looking forward to retirement. When I want to retire, the word retire actually comes from the French word, which means to go into exile, to be put away. You are no longer useful, you are sent away uh, uh, out of society. That's what it basically means. To retire means, I mean, to not put to put it bluntly, to retire means is preparing to die, because there is this um, uh, presumption that we are no longer useful, that things are going downhill from now on. And one of the things that I realized, and I realized this way back in 2006, not necessarily from reading this surah or watching this particular video that I've shown you, because this is just 2 years old, but it gave an explanation a lot for the thinking that I had gone through, because we all know our date of birth. But on the other hand, we don't know the date that we're going to die, that we're going to pass away. And yet, my faith tells me that that is already determined. It is already predetermined what's going to happen to me. So if I say, oh, things are going, I'm so unhappy at work, I can't wait to retire, and retiring is in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, and when I retire, things are going to be okay. Or on the other hand, there's this other argument, oh, I am going to retire when I'm financially free. Or on the other hand, it's saying, oh, I can't wait to retire because I just can't stand my job so much. And when I retire, things are going to be okay. The problem I have with that whole argument is that if I am unhappy at work right now and I say I'm looking forward to retirement in 5 years' time, it might be fated I'm going to die after this, tonight, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe right now as I walk out of the door of my house. So if that's the case, how can I base my entire concept of existence, or my concept of happiness on something that's going to happen in the future? Because surely it must happen now, because there could be no tomorrow. So it forced me, and it makes it necessary for me to think about, I can't, when during that moment of my life in misery that I shared earlier, it dawned on me that I can't wait until tomorrow. It's not going to be fine tomorrow. Hey, it might never be fine. I have to live my life according to the fact that things may never change, and I have to come to terms with it. And the second thing I got from this surah was the fact that we have to come, if you are unhappy, or if you're miserable, or things are not going well, or you're just not having a great time, it might be a good idea for you to re-examine and completely overhaul your concept of success. What does success mean to you? What does it really mean to you? And if you understand what success means to you and how you define it and what goes into it, then go after it. But you got to make sure that that definition of success is working for you. I can tell you, it cannot be conditional. It cannot be, oh, I am a success if this happens. I am a success if I am a CEO of a company. I am a success if I have $1 million. I am a success if I have a big house. I am a success if I have my fancy cars or my toys or my gadgets. If success and the following happiness depends on a condition being fulfilled, then definitely that is an external factor. And external factors change, and and it may not be permanent. There must be a different way for you to define what success means to you. What does success mean to me? If we look at what I've been talking about, wanting to figure this out, where is it? If we go back way back to the beginning, what does success mean to me? Success means to me I am responsible for my life. Make no excuses. I don't blame people, and I definitely don't justify my actions, because I know at some point in the afterlife, on the day of judgment, I can't escape responsibility. So I might as well take responsibility right now. This idea of wanting to convert my natural capital and make something useful out of it, and trying to discover what it is, and when I discover what it is, being able to turn it into what I can do and what I can focus on doing, so that I don't do anything else that distracts me from my hedgehog principle, and to add value, always adding value to this world, always adding value to society around me, always adding value to the community around me, always adding value to the people that hang around with me, always adding value, always adding value, always adding value. And if I can do all that, then that I consider to be a success. I have completely taken out the concept of happiness from my success or material things, because I really don't care about it. It's not important to me, right? And I'm able to do that because I've gone through the process, because I have found what it is that I'm passionate about, what it is that I can be the best in the world at, and how I can turn it into an economic engine. And what I would say is, at this moment, what I do, things like this video, which I count as me adding value to the world, me having my natural capital, my skills, my knowledge, my experience, my skills, and the principles that I have that I'm sharing with the world through YouTube, so that this is what I leave behind if I go, or when I go rather, that people can learn from me. I consider that as a success. The corporate training that I do and all the companies that I help in wanting to develop their natural talent is adding value. One of the things that I would say in to end this whole thing is, it's important that you find meaning. Meaning is important. Now, if we can find meaning in our life and meaning in what we do, then it can be hard, it can be difficult, it can be the most painful thing that you've ever done. But if it is meaningful, you will be okay with it. I promise you. And that's what happened to me. And the funny thing is, I wouldn't want you to quote me as saying, if this happens, that would happen. But as soon as I made adding value as a core part of my day-to-day life, and less about making money and deriving an income or deriving a revenue, and focusing more on adding value, suddenly the revenue and the income comes, and it flows it flows with this idea of adding value. And you know, being able to find what you are deeply passionate about, being able to find what you're good at, and being able to find your economic engine, and the three intersection like the hedgehog concept that Jim Collins was explaining, and understanding how you convert those things into a financial asset. When you're able to do that, you will find that retiring doesn't really matter anymore, because you will do something that you can do for the rest of your life, and you'll be okay at doing it. And that is why I won't retire. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I am going to put all the links and resources I quoted in the description below. Um, I, um, I had to think long and hard about how to do this, because it does involve elements of faith and my religion, and I wanted to make this as universal as possible. But I think it's worth your while thinking about it. So let me recap. 5 things you need to do. Number 1, take responsibility. Stop excuses, lay blame, justify. As soon as you do that, as soon as you want to take charge, things will change. Understand that you have natural capital in you. Don't look for income. Don't look for a salary. Don't look for revenue. Look into ways that you can convert your natural capital into a financial asset. And once you do that, you'll be okay. Number 3, figure out your hedgehog concept. What are you deeply passionate about? What you can be the best in the world at, and what drives your economic engine? Have a list for all 3, and where it intersects, focus your attention on. Or at the very least, find out what you're deeply passionate about, find out what you can be the best in the world at the intersection of those 2 circles. Then you think, how can I turn this into an economic engine? Number 4, add value. Add value. Add value. This was a theme from last week's show as well. Find a way to add value. If you don't add value, then you may not have any value to the company or the company that you keep. Number 5, redefine what you mean by success. Really redefine it. Don't define it by what society says success means. Define it in what you think it means, and understand that there cannot be any conditions in terms of things that can happen or when it happened, because things have a funny way of happening, and some things are completely beyond our control and is completely in the will of God. So those are the lessons. Thank you so much. It is 6:24. I said we're going to do 60 minutes to 90 minutes, and I just did it. I am obsessed with finding a way to cut all this to 1 hour. So at least it's not 2.5 hours like last week's show. So what are the things that you can do for me? Like this video if it makes sense to you. Click on that like button now. Don't wait. Click now. Now. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Listen, I learned this from last week. There's a live chat and there's the actual comment section of the video. So when this thing ends, and please leave a comment in the comment section. All right? Who is here? Izzat, Imran, and Meg Richie. Hey, thank you for dropping by. I see you there's left a comment there. Share this video with others. If you think that this has been helpful, or you know that you have friends or family who can benefit from what I've just shared, please share this video. Take the link and share it on WhatsApp or your Facebook or your IG. Remember to use this hashtag, make everything a learning experience. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can do it. There, that is the button, the red button that says subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel. I aim to do the learning experience. I'm calling it the learning experience, by the way. That's going to be the name of my show. I'm going to do this turn this into a weekly show. I'm still trying to figure out the best time to do it. Next week's the learning experience, I am going to talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, and I'm going to call it something like the day my heart died, something dramatic like that. So the learning experience is all about me sharing what I have learned. It took me a long time to come with this concept because I am not I'm not a person who likes to trumpet what I've my successes and glory and all that. I don't think I hate talking about that. I think it's you as the viewer would benefit more from me sharing about my mistakes and my failures and what I've gone through. And I call it the learning experience because I want to share my learning experiences with you. All right. And with that, we're going to end this video, 6:27. Thank you so much. See you at the next the learning experience show next week. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and have a great weekend and see you later.